So today we have Sidney May, PE. She is the founder of Sidney H. May, PE, LLC. She is a civil engineer. She graduated from the University of Alabama in Birmingham with a BS in civil engineering. Her expertise is within our environmental professional services, general civil engineering, and education consulting. She's also interested and an expert in pavement design and groundwater monitoring and dam safety. She is the past president of the Birmingham branch of ASCE, and she is currently the director of the Birmingham branch of ASCE. She is also the past president of the Engineering Council of Birmingham. She is on ASCE's National Policy Committee for America's Infrastructure and is currently starting with the new report card for the infrastructure for the state of Alabama. She is also a nominee for the 2019 Engineer of the Year for ASCE Birmingham and the nominee for the 2020 Engineer of the Year for the University of Alabama Capstone Engineering Society. She is an instructor for the School of PE. She is a published author and an artist. So Sidney, thank you for joining today.
Well, thank you for having me, Kari.
Yes, maybe if we could start a little bit with like where you grew up, kind of what led you into engineering?
Okay, so I grew up here in Birmingham, Alabama. What led me into engineering, I'm not gonna, sugarcoat it. I didn't really know what an engineer was. I just kind of had a different way of looking at life, as a kid. I'm 6 years older than, my sister. So, I'm kind of almost like an, only child. So, kind of spent a long time being introverted. You're looking at things like, okay, dirt, how does it feel in my hands? And, just kind of making up things on your own. So it wasn't I know what an engineer is. It's just kind of like I've had these traits in how I look at the world, how I view the world. And engineering gives me that, exercise to do that in. So
Yeah,
it's
so
just kind of like a compilation of a lot of different things. You may be, traveling, watching the roads and watching the news or hearing about, okay, what happened to this bridge, or we may have had a bridge failure here or there. Or something happened. So it's just, like I said, you don't really know, didn't really know where I was going. Just know, okay, I'm a kid. I like math, and math was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was. But it was kind of something that I was just determined not to give up on, especially when you hit a roadblock in like geometry. And it's kind of funny because I'm like, okay, I struggled in geometry, but geometry is, kind of what we teach, especially with roadway design. So it's just, I guess it's funny. It's like you are who you are going to become. I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I'm determined to be an engineer. It's, kind of been just a part of who I always was.
So when do you feel like you realized that part of you? When did you realize that engineering was the definition of that part of you and what would be a good fit career-wise?
I guess it was high school. You're in high school, and everybody's about to graduate, and everybody's, you got your school counselors that are, trying to push you into, applying for different schools, applying for scholarships, trying to get you prepared to, go out into your higher education. So for me, our definition of success growing up was, you be a doctor or you become an attorney or a lawyer. And, that's those are the two definitions of success. And I'm like, well, I really don't like to argue that much. And I don't think I want to, get into, cutting people and, all the science. I've been in biology, but I was like, it's not for me. But it was fun. So I just kind of being, just kind of led into it. Going to an E-Day, I will never forget going to the E-Day at the University of Alabama, looking at the concrete canoe, and I was like, okay, this is cool. I think this is the place. This is it. Yeah. It's kind of one of my first college visits. I was like, it just kind of felt like home. Like, okay, I like this. And, we've shared other conversations, like, you go through the statics and the dynamics courses and you're like, wait a minute, time out. This is not for me. I too was about to switch my major to, it's like, let me do marketing. I'm artistic, let me,
Mhm.
let me go into marketing. But then I was like, I had a professor, he was like, hey, just drop the course and start over. And I was like, okay. Because, you make A's and B's, you like failing a course. You can't do that. But just drop it and start over. And I did. I dropped it. I started over and I still stumbled along, but I managed to at least, pass the course, pull out a C. And the more you stay into it, you're gonna run into, other courses like that. You just keep persevering through.
Yeah. Don't you feel I feel like engineering is such when you go to school, when you go to college for engineering, it's such a practice and such a lesson in grit because so many of us in high school were used to getting straight A's and things coming easy. And then you get into engineering school and just like you described, it's like you get a C and it's like, what in the world? Like this must not be for me, but it's just because it's so hard and so it's like a total lesson in grit, I feel like.
Yeah, because it's actually like, understanding, you know, you're trying to bottle up emotion. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you define that? You're just looking at the world differently.
Mhm.
Centripetal force. We can go down the line. You're like, this is foreign to me. I'm just knowing, going around in a circle. So, I like I said, I was exposed. That's the thing. I was exposed heavily to math and science. My mother was a school teacher, so she made sure that we were not short on experiencing science projects, reasoning, hypothesis, all of that. So
Sure.
still, like I said, it still was quite a challenge. But I will say that my past did prepare me for my future, like not being so quick to give up on it, because
Mhm.
it is something that you love to do. My greatest joy sometimes comes when I'm with a hard hat on in the field, and I'm looking up at the big earth moving equipment. I'm like, okay, here we go, we're about to build something great. It's just amazing.
I love that. When did you first experience that, like being out in the field and having, because I have a similar thing. Like I totally get that. Like that feels amazing to be out there. When did you first?
Actually, so when I started off in my career, I started off, like I said, in pavement design, performing pavement condition surveys, going out with drill crew in the middle of nowhere, in cow fields, pulling soil samples and logging them. So you're on the preliminary side. You're just seeing, okay, this is a piece of it from the beginning, but to
Mhm.
actually see it, okay, what everything that we planned. And that's why I feel like my career was just that's set for me. Seeing what we plan versus once we get out and once we build it. So it wasn't until some years later, when you're seeing the thing that you planned. This was our Lake Purdy project. We were building an access road to the north side of the dam for access, access road. But
Mhm.
just seeing it come to fruition. You know what I'm saying? Seeing
Sure.
different things come to fruition. Day by day. We're taking our time. We're building towards something. Or seeing pipe being put into the ground. Or water main breaks. Things like that. Things that you can actually see that you've contributed to.
Yeah, for sure. Do you feel like when you first like I know for me personally when I first started going out in the field, like there's just so many moving parts and so
Hmm.
many people that are looking to you for your expertise and for direction that at first it was overwhelming. Like I feel like when I first went out, it was super overwhelming, but then after a few years, it was exhilarating because you have to think on the fly and just based on your experience, right? So you build this platform of experience and then you have to give direction based on that. Did you have a similar experience to that or not?
Absolutely, absolutely. But the way that I've been able to, move is, having the excellent mentors, really good mentors and people that had trust in you. It's
Mhm.
something that they see in you. You may be younger, less experienced, or whatever you want to say, but it's something that people are able to see in you that, you know, and give you a chance. So I feel like, without that network, without, I'll say, that system in place, I don't think I would be, where I am. So it made it a little, it was difficult at times, but it's like, okay, I've got this problem going on. I'm able to call a lifeline. Like, what would you do? And then as continue to learn from them, and they put that trust in you. Okay, well, let's see, can she do it? And you actually pull it off. I mean, that's the best thing. Like, okay, I really can do it. I really did it.
Yes, love that. Love that. So kind of on that note, so I see you as like kind of two careers. Like you've got civil engineering, but then you're also an entrepreneur of starting your own business. So what led you down? I know you talked a lot about your mentors here previously, but what led you down that path to decide that you wanted to venture out on your own?
Well, I would say like there's always, we talked about it. There's somebody that's evaluating you, and sometimes that person that's evaluating you, especially if you're type A and you're overachiever, maybe you're going to try to live by their definition of who you are. So I'm like, okay, I've always been attracted to business as well. um and I'm like, okay, well, I won't give it up. I want to do, why can't I do both? I had an event planning company for many years. I started that probably around when I was 22, when I first graduated. I was like, this is the easy way to make some extra money. But, I loved it because I love the way things look. And we've had some, great 5-star weddings with some, great people. But I was too busy trying to chase passing the PE. So I couldn't, I had to, sacrifice one, and I chose to do that. But I've always had a real, passion for business as well.
hmm So do you feel like from your event planning company, do you feel like you used information and experience gained through that to start your engineering company?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, it's kind of like do's and don'ts, contract documents, things, essential things that you must, have in place to really move forward. So it taught me how to move. I mean, because engineering is a really big thing. It's a big liability. It's a big responsibility. We take our oaths, and
hmm
we're serious about them. So that's in and of itself
Right.
a big cup to drink out of, I would say.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes I say, like, so if a doctor screws up their job, like one person loses their life. Like if we screw up our job, like many, many people can lose their lives. So you're exactly right. Like we take an oath and that's super important to all of us. And it's a big cup to drink out of.
right, I couldn't think of anything better. But it's big. It's a heavy
Mhm,
thing, heavy responsibility, and it's nothing to be taken lightly. And neither is being in business for yourself as well.
mhm.
So um
So what do you think? So we like just like for the listeners or whatever. So you and I met at a conference where we picked each other out because of our shoes. We both had cute shoes on, and we're like, I think she knows a thing or two about fashion. We might need to get to know each other. And then like I think we were just chit chatting about fashion and art and all of the soft skills, right? Or like all of the artistic creative things. And it was so like a breath of fresh air from this engineering conference where we were talking about our other passion, but it's very logical and very methodical. And it was such a breath of fresh air to be in these little breaks and to be able to talk artistically and creatively. But how do you think that ties into the logical side and to the engineering side? Like, how do you see those two working together and bringing kind of your whole self into your engineering practice?
well, I think so. I mean, you made a great point. A few, I guess, moments back in our conversation, we were talking about being out in the field and everybody's coming to me, and I have to exercise. I've learned the logic. We're talking about statics and dynamics, and just the science of water movement. Just all of that stuff is so so concrete, but we're not you're talking about a whole nother aspect of it where there is an artistic piece to it.
Mhm.
There is, yeah, sure, there are standards that are out there, but, like you said, when we're out in the field, that gives us a chance to, get into the artistic side of it. We have to make adjustments here and use our creative thinking skills, thinking outside of the box. I feel
Mhm.
like, engineers may sometimes miss that. We do, and we probably do in our own way. So I'm not going to say we miss it. We just kind of, we express it in different ways. We do, ultimately think out of the box anyway. So
Right, right. Well, and don't you feel like too, I feel like our clients, and for ourselves too, and for our peers, like technical competency is the benchmark. Like that's expected. We are expected to be technically competent, but what really sets you apart is when you can come up with creative and innovative solutions. So, do you ever find, so this is something like, do you ever find when you're practicing creativity that ideas will come to you that pertain to engineering, like in your logical side, like you'll come up with solutions, like engineering solutions, if you allow your brain to kind of be in the other side?
I think so, but I think it shows up in to me different ways because, we are a real standardized practice, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I mean, I guess so. I would say
Yeah.
so.
I always, something that I remember when I used to work with other engineers, they'd be like, they'd say, I had a dream about this, or I had like an in the shower moment or whatever, where they like came up with a solution to something. And it's because like either, well, those are both times when their mind was at rest, I guess. But it seems like if you allow your mind to be creative or be at rest, then you can like almost solve some of those things
Yeah,
subconsciously.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of what I guess I hear what you're saying. That's kind of what I would do. It just comes differently for me. It's like, okay, I've got to step away from the situation and go into the little artistic, creative side, and then think my way out of whatever it is that I'm designing or into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So what has been a major risk that you've had to take to get to where you are now?
I would have to say, just owning the courage to actually step out and put myself out there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people may
Mhm.
say, okay, well, it's my dream to have a business, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And years and time can continue to go on, and but we don't have that real courage, or own that real courage to actually do that. So that would be my response to it.
Yeah. So here's another question, a follow-up question to that. How has it been starting a brand new engineering company and then a global pandemic hits?
I don't know. I feel like, okay, well, everything you know happens for I feel like it all happens for a reason,
Mhm.
because like I said, so for me, I've had a full-time job, and I've kind of built the company, just kind of very slowly, just okay, we're going to do this, we'll pick up another client here, just kind of still networking with people, maybe not just say, okay, it is my intent to be a business owner. No, I want to get to know you. Who are you? We're all engineers together. And engineers really feed off other engineers. So my life was always kind of really siloed, I'll say. So, I have, 5-year-old twins, and, I've always had, my family's been there as a support system. And, we've had our children in school, pretty early, because we want to, give them the foundation that they need. So you can imagine how difficult it is when you're like, okay, I know, here's my schedule. I'm gonna work my full-time job in the day, take care of my kids, and then I'm gonna write my book, or send this report, or respond to this client at night during the midnight hours. So
Mhm.
imagine that, and it's now all in one big melting pot. So you can imagine, kind of the stress that went along with it. So it's like, okay, well, do you stop? I mean, how do you adjust to your new life? What do? You kind of had an end goal in head, like, okay, I'm gonna, work those hours, work those long hours, build this thing out, and take a chance on myself. And then, boom, this hits. And so you're like, by the end of the day, I'm exhausted, but I got to keep going. I got to keep preparing for, this presentation or this class, or, I've got to send this report out for this client, all of that stuff. So it's, it's been long, late, long nights. But again, you know, having a support system is very important. So I
Mhm.
would I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have it.
Yeah, that's an important thing to note for sure. So if you were like, if someone came up to you and was just starting like an engineering business, what would you like? What would be your one line of advice for them?
What would I say to them? Just kind of be prepared for the unknown. Um, I don't know. I feel like a lot of engineers are, we're all type A. We like to, plan things out to a science. You know what I'm saying? You're coming from that, from that mindset mentality, when you're solving problems like we talked about earlier back in college. So, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to plan this thing all the way out. But, there, you are going to experience some bumps along the way in the road. Be mentally prepared. You may think, okay, well, I'll just be financially prepared, and that'll be it. But this thing is now resting on your shoulders or my shoulders, being responsible, responding to clients, making sure that your designs are you know credible and correct technically, like you said earlier, being technically competent, not omitting things, being prepared for like any lawsuits that could arise that may not even be your fault a lot of times. Just anything could come up. You just, being prepared for the unknown, because
Yeah,
you never know.
and that's both scary and exhilarating, right?
It is absolutely. It's, yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
addictive. It's kind of addictive, you know what I'm saying? Because I have had the opportunity to be like, I've asked myself, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing? Then I'm like, this is what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
moving forward. I mean, you're putting, a house or any structure. You deal with structures, Kari. I mean, you know that any structure is not just something that's built overnight. And, same with me. Any engineering design or even in the construction sector, it's not done overnight. We've got to, go through the process, go through the bumps, go through the failures. So
Yeah. Okay, so as you're talking, Sydney, I'm tying together some of the things that you've said, and I feel like creating a business is our creative outlet because we
right,
get to craft it how we want it. So we have the
right.
engineering side, but then we get to craft this business. We get to make websites that are true to us. We get to have business cards that are pretty, that are true to us. Like we get to craft those soft things and the business and our brand. Like our brand is our creativity, I feel like. So I feel like that's kind of maybe where the tie-in is. I mean, there's also like being innovative with our designs, but then like the business crafting part I feel like is very creative, and for me I love that side of it because what you put into it you get out of it and you get to craft it to your own what matters to you, right?
Absolutely. I don't think I could have stated better. That, picking out like logo colors, it's like, okay, I want something. I don't want, the traditional standard. Let me see, let's add an ombre, let's add a fade to it. Absolutely. You get to express who you are, and like you said, who you want to represent, who your brand is. A lot of
Mhm.
times, and it's no offense to anybody, you work for companies, you are, adapting to, their rules, their standards, their employment agreements, and things that come with it. So um now it's
Yeah,
just, okay, I'm going to, tell my story, or do the things that, develop the business, work, develop the partnerships, relationships with, who I'm choosing to develop those relationships with. It's just an honor.
it is. Yeah, I love how you talk, and you've talked about that a couple of times, just how important connections are and working with who work like who you have the best energy with, who fits good personally too. I think those are all such important things, just those connections and establishing them and building them. And I know you've mentioned that a couple of times, and I couldn't agree more with that. So what are you passionate about?
In terms of, I'm passionate about a lot of different things. So we talked about engineering as a passion. I think from this interview, you'll be able to, that'll be the big takeaway point. Oh, she really loves engineering, and
Mhm.
she, loves art. I just love, passion to me, like I said, it's visual arts for me. We talked earlier, and I was like, I love to paint. I do. I love to, we talked about home decor. I have unique home decor. I've got unique glasses and fashion, and I'm like, okay, well, what am I? How do you bottle that up? I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like, the common thread is, visual arts. I just, love the way, things look, and I love to experience life, to travel, to see new things, learn different things. And I always say that I just, kind of live to learn. My mother, instilled in us, my sister and I both very early, like education, 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 get your education.
Uh-huh.
Always learn. And education doesn't just come from, just being in a classroom. It's empirical as well, experience.
Mhm. Well, and
Because
I
you
think you
mentioned that,
stated that.
yeah, you
You
mentioned that earlier, especially in our profession, our credibility comes from our experience.
Yeah. Well, and I think you touched on that perfectly too about like you still like you're still learning, you're still curious and learning. And so like that education piece that your mother instilled in you, like that's prolific. Like that keeps on going, right? It's not just because you got your degree, now we're practicing. No, you're learning things all along. And I think that's like it's almost like one of your passions is just learning, right?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I guess you can say that. It is.
So, kind of on that note, so what got you into wanting to teach and write a book?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, it was something that found me. I'll say that. I worked for the Department of Transportation for our ALDOT for a number of years. So um, I would see the students kind of coming through and looking at the lab, and they would do tours with students. And I think, I was kind of friends with our EEOC officer. It's like, hey, I need some guest speakers. And I'm like, I'm not a guest speaker. I don't do, I don't do public appearances. So but I did it, and I talked about, okay, like erosion control. So I had a little wattle in my hand and I'm like, okay, what do you think this is used for? And this is what this is for. And so, it was my little 15 minutes of fun and that was it. But the director from, I think it's the UAB. Oh gosh, I forgot the name of the program. They will kill me if I didn't know it. But yeah, so he was like, I'm looking for, speakers to go out into, the local high schools and tell the students about um engineering. That was such a dynamic presentation. I'm like, I gotta, I had a full-time gig and I don't think I'm the woman for that job. But that kind of morphed into a really great opportunity to go out and talk to high school students about, engineering. Like, where do you think your lights come from? Where do you think your water comes from? What do you think, just kind of getting their minds, especially, for people who aren't exposed to it, because, I, led in the conversation with, I wasn't, necessarily exposed to engineering, the entire field of it. Like, this is what this profession is. But like I said, you have those bits and pieces that are always with you that you really like, and you just tying them all together. So let me give someone else that opportunity, that wouldn't otherwise know about it either. So and we, kind of went through the program and I was like, oh, I have a bright idea. Let's do an activity project. I'll stop talking. So we, built our little popsicle bridges, and put book weights on them. It was kind of, just something to do, just to show, okay, this is some piece of engineering. So, that kind of led to it. And as I said, I don't know if I led into this interview, but I told you, the struggle of trying to take the PE exam because of my test anxiety. And, had to go through a refresher course and wind up giving the opportunity to work for them. And then, really being paid to actually speak and be put in that spotlight. And I told you, I've had my fair share of experiences where I'm like, okay, what am I doing up here? I'm getting bad reviews, 1-star reviews, things like that. And like, talk about tenacity. It's like, okay, so what do I do with that? That really hurt my feelings. You read a bad Yelp review or even written one in your life. So that taught me to be graceful with people and give them a chance, because I was, most of it was stage fright. It's like, okay, we're talking about statics, dynamics, mechanics, and material, all of that stuff, FE related material. You should know it, might not be able to teach it. So it's been a great opportunity.
Yeah. Well, and it's not, those are not necessarily dynamic speaker topics, right? Like it's a little hard to be like super animated about dynamics.
Right.
So I can only imagine how hard it is to deliver that in an engaging is maybe the wrong word, but in a dynamic way.
I the right word, Kari, because it does have to be engaging. It does have
Yeah.
to be engaging. So that's to me where, I get to, use, again, you talking about creativity, but use that creativity and experience and put that into, practical terms so that somebody, you can, like I said, logically think your way and figure out and solve the problems on the exam and be, successful on it.
Right. Right.
Taking it, okay, like it's a practice exam. So, we're taking the theory, the things that we learn theoretically, and we're, putting those two together for a practice. Because yeah, sure, we have to know the theory, but just knowing, okay, how this stuff works and what I can and can't do. You spoke about creativity, how far can I take this limit?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And adjust to my site conditions or my field conditions. What do I do if I run into, a situation?
Sure.
And
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, and then, you get into the other side of it, which is the people aspect. So,
Mhm.
that's a whole nother added layer. So you learn, it's just so much.
Yeah. Well, I also feel like you get good public speaking experience from doing that too, right? Because you're in front of a classroom.
Yeah, you do.
And I love how you are sharing like your expertise and the things that you're passionate about with other people. That's such a gift and such a gift to other people to be able to share that too with them.
Well, thank you. You
So,
know,
who inspires you?
well, I'll have to say, there's just so many different inspirations around. I can give shout outs to, like all the major people in my life, my parents or my in-laws or my husband or my sister or my children, just drawing inspiration from so many people. But I'll have to say, I don't know. I think I draw my inspiration from God, really.
Mm-hmm. Love
Really.
that.
We talked about yoga and practicing and quieting our minds and just getting to a space. I'll have to say that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like it kind of recenters everything, right? Like it gets
Yeah,
it.
the quiet space, or whatever it is that you believe in, that becomes your center. You have to
Mm-hmm.
get back to your center and quiet yourself and draw your inspiration, because people are going to be people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I love that because like as you say, God, so it's like it's drawing into like what your ultimate purpose is, right? So
Right,
like
absolutely.
day-to-day things all has to tie into your personal, like what you're put here to do.
Right, absolutely.
I love
Absolutely. That is it, absolutely how I feel.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like if we don't check in every once in a while, then we like lose track of that, right? You can get lost in like the pettiness of the smaller stuff.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's kind of what has really gotten me through a lot of those tough times. We're having an awesome, major, positive conversation, but rest assured, there's always that downside or that negative side where, oh my goodness, I can't believe they said that. That's how that made me feel. Or, I felt somebody, I felt a hinge of racism here, or sexism, or, whatever isms, there are out there. So
And then it's connecting back into
like,
find.
okay, yeah, how do I find my higher self in this? Because I'm about to quit. I'm about to, explode. How do I keep going? You
Right.
mentioned that, we mentioned that several times. I thought about changing my major. This is not for me. But it turns out that, yes, it is. But
Yeah.
again, to me, without that center, without being able to go to, whatever that place is, for any individual, you just
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
down.
I think it's funny, like now that you're saying that, I'm like, okay, all of these times that like we've talked, off recording too, of like all these times where you're like questioning things, and it's like maybe this is just what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So, okay, well, I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you, so this will be not quite as intense and deep.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, what's your favorite food?
I'm a foodie. Anything that's different.
Okay,
That's
love
broad, isn't it? I told you I like to travel, so I mean, it may be okay. I want to try Caribbean food. I might want to try Cuban food. I'm a foodie.
Okay, do you
It's
cook or do
always
you
got to
like
be different. We talked about like being an artist, you struggle with it. It's like, I want to try something different. I want a different outfit. I want a different experience. So, what is it that I can experience at that time?
I love that. Like it carries over into food too. Do you like to cook exotic foods or different foods or no?
That's the thing. I'm like, okay, I know my limitations. I have my world. I'm from the South, so I am a Southern girl. So I've got all the staple foods coming right out of the kitchen. Uh, Heavy Thanksgiving. So, we're going to do that, but, to be able to experience someone else's, kind of way of life, because food to me is an expression of, our culture, our way of life. How did you learn to cook? You learn to cook from your mother or your grandmother, and it just goes back.
Yeah.
So,
It's a source of connection, right?
right, right.
Yeah, and I know you've said that a couple of times as far as like that being important, like the connection side, and food's just another extension of that, I feel like. So it's Saturday morning, you don't have any plans. What do you do?
Well, it's a late start. My kids, their highlight of their week is, coming to, we do movie night, family movie night in the bed. So everybody just kind of, piles into one, every sleeping all over the place. But it can be, late start to a day, not really doing anything. We're gonna cook breakfast, eat as a family, and just kind of explore the day, take the day in, slowly, and try to rest. And then, by that evening time, it's, hey, back up to work again. Like you said, you're an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, I got something to do. Everybody's going to sleep. At least I can even sleep a little late on Sunday if I'm up until 3 a.m. maybe. Uh,
Yeah. Uh, so what's your favorite beverage?
Water.
Water. What's
Yeah.
your favorite song, or what song is on repeat right now? Like what song do you like to listen to a lot?
Oh, I have to be honest, don't I?
Yeah.
Hmm. We're on a podcast. I let me see. Let me pick something that might. I'll
Doesn't
just
have
be
to
honest.
be, it doesn't matter if it's inappropriate.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay. It don't have to be Megan Thee Stallion Savage then. I'm
What?
sorry.
So
That's my get
I just
started song of the day.
what?
That's a get started song of the day.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. My get started song is Childish Gambino, Bonfire.
really? I love him too.
I know, and it's so inappropriate, but it is. It's got a good beat.
I gotta
Also,
listen.
on a different note, Justin Bieber has a new gospel album.
Oh my.
I know they don't
I
go
didn't
together.
hear that. I didn't see that one coming.
I know I didn't either, and it's kind of amazing actually. So
Really? You listen to it? Okay.
yeah, it's good. It's called Freedom. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna check it out.
Okay, what like when you're driving by yourself, do you listen to the radio, sing to the radio, or dance to the radio?
All of
Or
the above.
yes, love it. Me too. I figure people probably think I'm crazy because I'm dancing.
I said I didn't care anymore because
Yep, me either. Okay. Well, hey, that's all I got, Sydney. So I want to say thank you so much. Like, I am super appreciative of having you here. And on your website, you say that you dream in color. And all I can think of is when I'm looking at you over the screen is that you are color and excitement, and like your glasses and your logo on your dress and your navy blue wall in the back and all of the things. Like, it's just awesome. And I love that you have a passion for that at the same time that you have a passion for being out in the field and doing, like being in the dirt and working with that and doing things to really to better civilization, like to make things better and easier for people. And your passion for that comes through as well. And that is so commendable. And I am so proud of you for starting your own business and for taking that route and just jumping off the cliff. I know
yeah.
you look for great things. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for reaching out, Kari. I'm glad to catch up with you. We got to have many more offline conversations.
Cheers to that. So